UTMB Health, working together to work wonders.
Now I'd like to call Dr. Callender to introduce today's speaker, please.
It is my great pleasure to introduce today's commencement speaker, the Honorable Steve Ogden, a former Texas Senator with his own incredible record of service to others. He is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy and was an officer in the Navy's nuclear submarine force for 9 years. He holds an MBA from Texas A&M University, Aggies, whoop, there you go, and is president and CEO of Ogden Resources, an independent oil and gas company based in Bryan. Senator Ogden was a member of the Texas legislature for 22 years before recently retiring. For 9 of those years, he served as chair of the Senate Finance Committee. In this role, he was a key figure in shaping the future of Texas. Our entire state, and certainly UTMB, continues to benefit from the vision and leadership provided during Senator Ogden's term of elected service. I've had the very great fortune of getting to know him over the past few years. He is exceedingly humble, and I can almost guarantee that he is embarrassed by these remarks and any sort of praise. In fact, he isn't motivated by praise or recognition at all. He is driven by a leadership vision based on honesty, integrity, compassion, equanimity, and great respect. His core leadership values were clearly on display during his time of service in the Texas Senate. That's the reason he continues to be admired by legislative colleagues and people all across our state. I have great admiration for Senator Ogden because of the type of leader that he is, but I also really respect him for the sort of person that he is, devoted to his family and his community. He is driven by a sense of service to others. I don't know of anyone outside of UTMB who has provided a greater service during this institution's time of need than Senator Ogden. In the difficult days after Hurricane Ike, some significant state leaders thought the risk of rebuilding UTMB was too high and that the resources needed for the university's recovery could be better used for other priorities. Knowing in our hearts that the loss of UTMB would be a significant loss for our entire state for generations to come, the leaders here worked diligently to increase awareness of the incredible return on investment that we provide for the state of Texas. Our local elected officials, particularly state representatives at the time, Craig Island and Larry Taylor, were doing all they could to help UTMB, while also tending to the significant recovery needs of our entire region. In the midst of that anxious and uncertain time, Senator Steve Ogden stepped into the picture with his incredible understanding of UTMB's importance to all of Texas. He provided valuable perspective as a business leader and elected representative who lives hours from our region, but who clearly appreciated the long legacy of service that UTMB graduates have provided, and how important it is for Texas, for that service to continue. He eloquently shared his belief about the importance of the return on investment associated with restoring UTMB broadly during that difficult time. Thanks to the unwavering commitment of Senator Ogden and with the help of our delegation and many other members of the legislature, by the end of the 2009 legislative session, UTMB's hospital appropriation was increased by $96 million. $150 million was appropriated for recovery funding, which we needed to match the funds available from FEMA, and a $150 million tuition revenue bond, or the debt service for it, was provided to help build a new Jenny Seeley Hospital. With this critical funding, we were able to overcome the financial crisis created by Hurricane Ike, rebuild our Level 1 Trauma Center, and restore our health care and health education services for the entire state. Now, some have told us that any one of those feats could be described as a miracle, but all were accomplished in the year after Hurricane Ike. Senator Ogden will be the first to tell you that he didn't accomplish all of this on his own, and he will definitely credit the work of many others in achieving these successes. But it's no exaggeration to say that UTMB's unprecedented recovery would not have been possible without Senator Ogden in our corner. Class of 2013, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm UTMB welcome and expressing our deep gratitude to Senator Steve Ogden.
Thank you, Dr. Callender, for those very kind and generous words. This is a happy day. I know it's probably one of the happiest days of your life. It's a pretty happy day for mine, too. When I was marching in and I saw your faces, I got pretty emotional now, because I had some inkling of what it took all of us to be here today. It is a great personal honor that I have the privilege of addressing you today. But I've got to tell you a story before I start my short speech. Dr. Fuller was talking about the importance of staying politically active. And one of the things that helped save the University of Texas Medical Branch in 2009 was the UTMB Alumni Association and the influence it has throughout the state. And today, one of those influential alumni is Dr. Walker, who was my constituent. And I want to tell you a story about how he influenced me politically. And this happened a long time ago, so the statute of limitations is out, and I'm not sure he could do it again. But back in 1997, I was campaigning for my first term in the Texas Senate. And Dr. Walker was doing surgeries in Crockett, Texas. And I went to see him to ask him for his political support. Well, the guy's doing surgery all the time. He didn't have time to talk to me. So he says, I'll talk to you. Put on some scrubs and a mask and wash your hands and come into the operating room with me, and I'll talk to you while I'm working on this guy's intestines. And he did. And I was afraid to say anything because I didn't want to distract him. But Dr. Walker was a great supporter of mine. He's a distinguished alumnus, an extraordinary surgeon in rural Texas, and my first experience with the UTMB Alumni Association was in an operating room with Dr. Walker in Crockett, Texas. And I want to thank you, sir, for your service and your support. In a beautiful ballad, Brad Paisley sings these words. A baby's born in the middle of the night in the local delivery room. They grab his feet, smack him till he cries. He goes home the next afternoon. Before you know it, he's off to school, and then he graduates in May. Goes out and gets a PhD, and then cures all sorts of things. Wins the Nobel Prize, and saves 1 million different lives. The world's a better place for all he's done. It's funny when you think about the reason he's alive. It's all because two people fell in love. Today, think about those two people in your life and any other person who may have stood in for them as you went out and got that doctor's degree. You are now ready to save 1 million lives, so give heartfelt thanks. Had it not been for them, none of us would be here today to celebrate your magnificent achievement. In 1900, and then again in 2008, the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston was nearly destroyed. In 1900, more than 6,000 people died from a hurricane and 3,600 structures were destroyed. Both the John Seeley Hospital and Old Red were severely damaged. John Hutchinson Seeley paid for the repairs to the John Seeley Hospital from his personal fortune. In 2008, Hurricane Ike caused over 100 fatalities 8,000 houses were lost. John Seeley Hospital closed. The Level 1 Trauma Center was shut down. All of the University of Texas medical branch facilities and systems were damaged. 2,500 people were laid off, and many students at this medical school, maybe some of you, were relocated. This was a disaster. And at that time, I was the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee for the state of Texas. And what I had was a pencil and a brain. The acute and immediate needs were clear: cleanup, public safety, shelter, food, and water for those affected by the storm. It wasn't very long, however, that my focus shifted and became, what are we going to do about UTMB? And as Dr. Callender said, the cost to rebuild was substantial. The wisdom of rebuilding was questionable, and some powerful members of the UT Board of Regents and the UT System Administration wanted to leave Galveston. To me, that was unacceptable. In my mind, we could simply not say this: sorry about losing your house and everything in it, but unfortunately you're going to lose your job too. Too bad. I got mad about it. We continually refer to ourselves as being the great state of Texas, but for that to be true, we had to rebuild. I was convinced that we could muster the resources. What we really needed was the will. I started out with a direct appeal to the governor. I asked the lieutenant governor to tour the devastation with me and commit to rebuild, which he did. I asked the Seeley Smith Foundation for help too, and help they most certainly did. I enlisted the press, the city, and the county of Galveston, scolded the UT Board of Regents, partnered with a Democrat trial lawyer named Representative Craig Island, and wrote the budget. And it worked. And it worked. Success, they say, has many parents. And this is certainly true in the case of UTMB. It's also true in our cases here today. Just look around. So many here today, and many others with us only in spirit, deserve great credit. As Brad Paisley sings, "The world's a better place for all you've done. Thank you. Thank you." As for me, the work for UTMB ranks as one of the highlights of my 22-year legislative career. It brings me to a bit of advice. Stand on principle. Our nation is founded on idealism, and we must stand up for what we believe in. It is worth remembering that unlike nations before us, our military has been used primarily to defend this principle: human beings have an inalienable right to be free. It is exactly because others have sacrificed so much for principle that we should find our courage and stand up for what we believe in. But standing up for principle is not just our civic duty, it comes with its own reward. Think about the person or persons you admire most in this world, and I'll bet none of them are pure pragmatists. Rather, I'm confident you admire them because of the principles that have governed their lives and directed their actions. President Theodore Roosevelt famously said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Stand on principle. As doctors, you will see firsthand the miracle of life and the mystery of death. The second law of thermodynamics states that everything left on its own will decay or tend toward disorder. Yet, how is it possible that two cells unite to become one of the living, thinking, loving human beings we see all around us? I don't know. But I would suggest you simply give God a chance. God can easily be blocked out by your everyday concerns, by all the commercial noise that envelops us every day, and by the moral confusion of the world we live in. The map of life is not always clearly marked, but with faith and God's help, you will not fear the road ahead. The beliefs you form in your spiritual life will give you the confidence you need to take the right path. If you listen for and hear God's voice speaking to you through your conscience, you will, in the end, find peace and comfort as you arrive at your life's destination. And finally, be honest in your dealings. Integrity is on the endangered species list, and we need to save it. We squander too much time, waste too much energy, and spend too much money because we cannot trust each other. It is possible to live life honestly. I'm not saying that you can live without ever cutting a corner or telling an untruth, but there are lies that are self-serving, that attempt to mask one's failure or lack of effort or hurt and cheat others, and you do not have to engage in them. No human relationship can flourish. No human endeavor, large or small, can survive without trust. It is important when you wake up every morning that you like what you see in the mirror. There is real pleasure when you have won fairly. There is honor in losing when you have fought tenaciously and honestly, and there's no higher praise than to hear others say they can trust you. The woman who helped me write this speech experienced the importance of this kind of trust when she told me what doctors meant to her and to her mother, who is now deceased. She thanked you for figuring out why her mother was so sick in 1996, lung cancer, and for the treatments that gave her an additional 15 years of life, which allowed her to meet all 13 of her grandchildren. And she also thanked you for telling her family the truth when it was her mother's time to die. Our state needs each and every one of you. Texas continues to experience growth, and we need the skill and dedicated service that you will provide now more than ever. I see that many of you have chosen primary care for your specialty and that many in your class have accepted residencies in Texas. This is wonderful. To those of you who are leaving to train in other states, I wish you the best of luck and hope you will come back home when you're done. The historically unprecedented freedom our country and our state offers you is not to guarantee your security, but to guarantee your opportunity. Thomas Edison once said that the reason a lot of people do not recognize opportunity is because it usually goes around wearing overalls and looking like hard work. Overalls or scrubs, it's the same thing. And by your presence today, I know that you have recognized and taken advantage of your opportunities. Be the leaders of your generation, an example for all of us to follow. Stand on principle, give God a chance, be honest in your dealings. May God continue to bless you. Thank you for listening. I wish you fair winds and following seas.
Thank you, Senator Ogden. We really appreciate those inspiring words. And I want everybody to know that we provided Senator Ogden a little commemorative gift, a beautiful clock inscribed with UTMB so he can remember this day. But Senator, what we really want you to remember are the faces of these graduates. And remember, know that many will come after them in service to others. Without you, that likely would not have been possible. Thank you again for being here today, and thank you for your incredible service in support of UTMB and its future.